Hi everyone, and welcome back to Butchery 101. I'm Christina Glenoga, and today we're breaking down one whole duck. Today's breakdown will yield 2 boneless skin-on breasts, 2 bone-in skin-on legs. I know there's only one pictured here, but there are 2. And 2 sets of wing parts that includes the tips, the flats, and the drumettes. And finally, you'll end up with a little pile of fatty skin trim that you can render for duck fat and a carcass of bones that's going to yield really delicious stock. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and let's go! Okay, so let's start with the duck breast side up. Here are his legs. Those 2 are the breasts. And here down the middle, you're looking at the keel bone. That's really important because when you do start the breakdown, you want to be able to feel that ridge of the keel bone. At the top, we have a flap of skin left over from the neck and head area. And then the other spot where you'll have a bunch of skin is down here at the bottom where the cavity opens. Here's a little side view of the leg and how it articulates, so pay attention because that's going to be important when we take them off. Now with the breast side down, we can see the backbone. And also on either side of the backbone are 2 tiny muscles called the oysters, and they're super delicious in like every bird. Now let's look at the wings. That's the tip. Here's the flat, and that is the drumette. Drumette. I don't know why I say it separately like that. And then do make sure to check inside the cavity when you get your duck, because oftentimes they will include the neck, and then sometimes they'll include some offal like a liver or some kidneys, but we didn't get any this time. Before we get into the main part of the breakdown, do yourself a favor and trim off any of the excess fat and skin here at the top, but don't throw it away. I'll show you later on how to best utilize the duck fat for cooking because it's super wonderful. The very first cut we're going to make is down the keel bone between the 2 breasts. And I'm using my left hand here to make sure that I'm cutting on both sides of the keel bone, and it's really nice because you can just use your fingers to tell where your next cut ought to be. I'm doing really shallow exploratory cuts because I want to make sure that the pieces of meat that come out are as smooth as possible, and that way if I do make a mistake, it's not going to be like a huge egregious one. It'll be like a really mild mistake. Also, I do want to point out that my left hand seems like it's getting dangerously close to my knife right there, and it totally is. The only reason I didn't move the duck to create a more safe working situation, like where I can keep my blade away from my hand, is my lighting setup and my camera setup. If I weren't filming this, it would be a little bit different. So I just want to point out that if you do see the knife getting like a little too close to my left hand, take this advice. Don't let that knife get too close to your hand if you're getting at all nervous. Now that we're working the second side, I want to take a moment and zoom in on the shoulder joint right here. And now that we're behind the shoulder, you can continue with your knife down the back of the rib cage, and we essentially have both breasts off. Now that both breasts are essentially disconnected from the carcass, we can start working on the legs. So slide your hands underneath the two legs and hyperextend both hip joints. Now turn the bird so that the tail is pointing to the right or left if you're left-handed. And I like to flip the underside carcass out inside out so that the entire carcass is more stable. Now take your knife and up against the tail, start cutting away the meat towards the hip socket. Make sure to get your knife behind the ball there, so it's between the ball and the socket, and then that will allow the leg to release from the rest of the carcass. I tried to do my little oyster pull move here that I do in the chicken video, but it didn't really work because I didn't release enough of the meat from the breast side. Oh well. I'm running into the shoulder blade of the duck right now, and you can see it's a long skinny bone, so I'm going to use my fingers to tell where it is exactly in the meat, slide my knife underneath, and leave as much meat on the breast and the wing as possible. So here we have it, 1/2 of the duck. Now, let's do the second half removal. We're going to do it this time with the tail pointed away from us, and it's the same deal. So you flip the carcass so that it's kind of open like a book. Here, using your left hand, my left thumb is finding where the bones and the cartilage and the meat are meeting each other and ending, so I know where exactly to put my knife to maximize the yield on the parts that I'm cutting off. This whole thing can go into your stock pot with the neck bones and it'll make a delicious stock. Okay, so let's go on breast and leg separation. Here we have our lovely semi-boneless duck half, so I'm gonna flip him over to be skin side down. And you can see this fat line, after I clean up a bit, the fat line right there between the two parts is super easy to find, and you just do one slice across to separate both pieces. Super easy, and don't forget to repeat it on the other side. So now let's separate the wing and breast sections. You can see here how the wing articulates off of the breast, and it's super easy to remove both parts. So we're gonna just flip him over. And there you have one wing and one boneless skin on duck breast. Now we're going to try to separate all the wing parts from a single whole wing. You'll have seen this method both in my chicken video and earlier in this video when we did the airliner breast, but all you have to do is find the joints between each of the wing parts and slice through the cartilage. If you find the exact right spot, your knife will glide right through and it'll be super easy. And finally, let's do the boneless skin on breasts. My goal with these two is to have the appropriate amount of skin and fat for each breast as I'm cooking them, and to give the skin its optimum situation for rendering. So you see here, I've flipped the breast over to be skin side down, and I'm just trimming enough skin off so that the breast is left with let's say like a 1/4 to 1/2 inch of skin all the way around. And now that we have the shape that I really want, I'm going to score the skin so that it renders more easily in the pan when I'm cooking it. Now, you can see already that I'm cutting way too deep. When you score skin, really what it is that you're looking for is just barely to cut the surface. And I'm just showing this to y'all because I want you to know that butchers mess up too. So I do stand by how thin I'm making these cuts in terms of like how close together and like how small the grid is that I'm making, because I do want to maximize the surface area of the skin for rendering purposes. But again, I'm cutting way too deep. It really shouldn't be exposing the meat like that. And full disclosure, I did cook these both at home already and they turned out great. Nothing wrong happened with them. It's just not very cute to look at. So if you're cooking for yourself, it's whatever, cut it however you want. But if you're doing this for like restaurant service or for display in a butcher shop, I would be a little bit more careful, maybe grab like a smaller knife or a smaller blade for this, but again, for home purposes, it worked out super well for me. Also, I've been talking a lot about utilizing the entire animal, including the trim from the skin and fat. And just so you know, that little pile on the top right there is going to be rendered. And what I'll eventually do is dice each piece into tiny cubes about the same size of the squares you're seeing in this scoring job I'm doing right now. And so what you want to do is pop them into a pot or whatever cooking vessel you have with a tiny bit of water, like a tablespoon, and then put it over low, super low heat and just let the fat melt out. You don't really want it to brown, but you just want the fat to be liquid so that you can use it in cooking later on. And there you have it, one whole duck broken down into parts that you can use in any kitchen. I really hope this video inspired y'all and will help embolden you to try cooking duck or breaking down a duck or breaking down any bird really for your kitchen. I don't personally have a ton of experience working with duck, and so this was actually a bit of a challenge for me, and I hope that by showing y'all like the mistakes that I made and the process that I went through, that it does help you be a little braver when it comes to trying out new things in the kitchen. So please do hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to see more. It really helps this channel out a lot, and I just want to let you know that I really appreciate you watching this video so I can share butchery knowledge with you, and then also just to like help more people become better informed about their meat decisions is like so important to me. So I love that you're here. I love that you're learning about duck. Please let me know in the comments what you want to see more of, if this is helpful to you, or just anything. Yeah, I'm really stoked that you're here, and I hope to see you soon. Huge thanks to the Patreons who helped make this happen, and thanks again so much to everyone for watching. Have a good one. Bye.